And the other fact that governments don't have money. They steal yours. It's why it's important for them to put up that fake premise that or convince the people that they're U.S. citizens, not knowing that that when they agree to that, you understand there's no naturalization. Ask yourself this: present anyone that you know, and you can actually have them come on and make their comments on our venue at the House of Awakening Minds. Show when any of these people of African descent who keep claiming to be U.S. citizens show their naturalization papers and show evidence of them going through the nationalization process, etc. And I guarantee you they won't, because it never happened. They were not, cannot, and will never be U.S. citizens, although they can claim it. But they use your claim to actually create more bonds. This is why you see them desperately running troops. They run around all over the place, banging on people's doors, asking them to sign the census.
So yesterday,
That's why they're doing it.
yesterday the deadline?
It doesn't matter. They're bankrupt. They're dissolved. They've been dissolved. Let's look. Let's look at this again. You know, you all need to really get some clarity on what's going on here. I'm going to read something else to you. You'll notice how New York City right now is boarded up, even areas where they didn't have so-called peaceful riots under Antifa, that is disguised as the Black Lives Matter movement. Number 11, quote unquote, New York City is defined in federal regulations as, quote unquote, the United Nations. New York City is, quote unquote, the capital of the world. See 20, Council on Foreign Relations, Chapter 111, Subpart B, 44.103, Subsection B, 2 and 2. There you go. You better wake up. Hold on. I'm going to give me another one. Give you another one. And for you who are arguing about Trump, and I not that I'm defending Trump again, because these people keep twisting things around. Social Security numbers, I know a lot of y'all depend on that, particularly since you ain't got no jobs. You've been thrown off the plantation. Social Security numbers are issued by the United Nations through the International Monetary Fund. And the application for a Social Security number is the SS5 form. The Department of the Treasury / International Monetary Fund issued the Social Security Fund forms, SS5 forms, and not the Social Security Administration. The new SS5 forms do not state who publishes them, while the old forms state they are from the Department of the Treasury. See 20, Council on Foreign Relations, Chapter 111, Subpart B, 422.103, Subsection B. Thank you very much. Do some studying. I'll give you something else. Y'all really need to really start doing some civic studies. The United States does not have any employees because there is no longer a legitimate United States. There shall be no more reorganizations. After 200 years of bankruptcy, it is finally over and dissolved. See Executive Order 12803. Repeat, see Executive Order 12803. So now, again, the more you understand the real politics, the more you understand why they're fighting Trump for cleaning out the house of the corruption. Not necessarily because he's a good guy, because the world won't trade with them anymore. And don't think that you're going back to your JOBs if half this stuff is not solved by Trump. That's the truth.
Okay, I have just
Go ahead.
an epiphany. It may be way out.
Epiphanography. Go
it may
ahead.
be out to lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, but 9/11, when it actually happened, I saw 11, the towers as a symbolic of 11, which is a master number. And
Yeah.
you just said that the New York is the
Capital of the world.
of the world. Is also the United Nations of the capital of the world. The Twin Towers represent the 11 or the master number. The strike on the towers took place on September 9/11. It took 9 years.
Yes.
Later, it took. I mean, what I mean? It took till I'm talking about that. It took till 2000, if you will, not 9 years, but it took till 2000, right, for that actually to fall. We thought the towers, when the towers went down, that was to collapse, but it didn't. It was teeter tottering, if you will, precariously with all kinds of things. Like you said, 2007, 2008 came, and all the the various things, and they kept doing things to keep it propped up.
And keep this in mind.
In 2020, in our clear vision, now we see that it has now collapsed.
And people already know that it was an inside job. They didn't want to believe that. They really want to believe that somebody brought them down with a box cutter in a cave in Afghanistan, wherever. Hold on. The other deal of it is, people pretend not to recognize the documented record, that 2 months before that they doubled the insurance on all those buildings, including that other building with that 7th floor that fell down. Oh, the plane missed that, but it fell down anyway later. And then they accused bin Laden of hiding in an alley doing it. And then some pilots who were trained Muslims, they threw their IDs out the window and everything else burnt, but they didn't burn.
Yeah. The ID, yeah.
And then Bush's brother and cousin, somebody found it, whatever. Please. People know their...
Bush is reading a book to the children upside downwards.
Yeah.
Waiting for the call.
Not just that. Keep in mind, not only did they double the insurance a couple months just before the buildings, also, people don't want to keep pretending they don't know that ambassadors came from Germany asking for their gold. Those same 2 months before, when they raised the so-called insurance on all those, doubled up. And they told them to take a walk. Then, remember, after that, then they went and raided Libya and stole Gaddafi's gold to give some gold to Germany. So people keep on forgetting sequence of events.
That's called robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Exactly. And so with Gaddafi, remember, he was helping to put that satellite up to take Africa and the Asiatic states from under the thumb of the Rockefellers and the Gates Foundation, etc., and so they wouldn't be subject to Google and all the rest of the stuff. And that was another reason they took Gaddafi out.
We would have had a different platform.
You daggone right. And now they can censor any information. See, people don't put all those things together. Not because they can't. I think a lot of people don't want to. You know how, like you were talking earlier, a lot of people play dumb and say that they're not aware of certain things, but when you really analyze it, it's not that they don't want to accept the truth because they don't want to admit that they've been hypocrites or part of the problem. Another one, number 6. The FCC, the CIA, the FBI, NASA, and all the other alphabet soup agencies and gangs were never a lawful part of the United States government, even though, quote unquote, the United States government, through its trustees and representatives, held stock in these foreign agencies. See United States versus Strang, U.S. 491, Lewis versus U.S. 680 F second 1239. And so these so-called trustees and representatives actually hold stock in the FCC, the CIA, the FBI, and NASA. Do you notice how the people never benefit from none of these organizations, and anything of importance they hide from the people? And yet these people keep on doing things to the people that cause injury to the people. But the people keep thinking that these alphabet soup organizations are part of, quote unquote, their government. This stuff is all documented, and the people I think want to be naive. They just don't want to believe that these people are really anti-constitutional, and that you're being governed over by people who are not your legitimate government and never were. Hard nut to swallow, hard truth for a lot of people to accept. However, it is the truth.
Is that the United 254 US 491?
You
just gave.
What we just read?
1921. Lee Strang 254.
This is versus Strang US 491. Lewis versus US 680. Yes.
Okay. I just want to put.
Yes, and then you all can do please take notes and do research, so that as we're sharing information over these years, that a lot of truths and facts that we present over to you via the House of Reawakening Mind, so you can do some research and become aware of these things yourselves. It's not our information. It belongs to all of you. And keep in mind, you're responsible to this. And also, you'll understand why Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that if they failed to enforce the law, that we were going to suffer. And here we go. And I suggest that if many of the people who have been claiming to be sheiks and sheikesses under the leadership of Noble Drew Ali, if they had carried out the law as he declared, a lot of these problems that we're suffering from now would not be on our backs. And that's a fact. But you hear some of them being trolls against people who have been trying to tell you the truth for years. And a lot of them are trolls because they don't want people to pay attention to the fact that many of them have been traitors. It's unfortunate, but it's self-evident.
Columbus Dunn says, should we be getting some gold or silver and getting rid of this fiat? You've been saying that for years.
See, this is the point. While you're under occupation, you've been forced to use the fiat, or they try, like Drew Ali said, they're going to try to starve you out. And as you all know, pardon me, Dr. Naila has been suggesting to you all, while you're able to at least get some silver so that you can help survive the transitions that are absolutely being made. And it's not a matter of belief. This is a matter of fact. That is the money. And if you have gold, you're not going to trade the gold. You'll use that as an insurance. But the silver you will actually use in transactional trade, because that is the money.
What about the fact that it seems that they're moving towards maybe a digital?
Because they're still trying to maintain power.
Right, because they could subtract anytime they want.
What they're trying to do, let's look at every time they try to do something or what they say. Always measure it against the Constitution. Article 1, Section 10, the Constitution for the United States state that no state shall emit any bills of credit or coin anything but gold or silver coin for payment of debt. And you can read that out. Please read that out every time somebody tells you about anything, saying that anything else is the money. And I'm not saying don't do these things. I'm not saying one thing or another. I'm saying what the money is and what people keep telling you that it isn't.
I'll put it here.
Because remember, they've been doing the digital currency for 40, 50 years already. It's just that they introduced it to the public now so they could still maintain control over your resources. Because it's easier for them to blank out your computer and a card that you have with digits than it was even to take the physical fiat. So take all that in consideration. So I'm not telling you what to do or not to do. I'm telling you use your common sense. Because remember, in contract law, substance for substance. And the other rule relative to money, silver and gold, coins, Joachimthaler, pardon me, if you don't have it in your hand, you don't have it. Tell me how many digital coins, which is an oxymoron, can you put in a jar? How many can you put in your pocket? How many can you hold in your hand? How many can you hold in your hand? Show, look, Dr. Nayo, look how much digital coins I got.
Yeah, a whole bunch.
You know, and they'll have a convenient blackout, and then all your stuff in your computer and your cards go away. And don't think that's not what they plan, because that's exactly what they plan. However, I'm also not saying don't use it. I already know the game. But you need to start using your common sense. Rule in contract law. Substance for substance. And if anybody that knows any contract law that contradicts that, state it for the record. Not by your opinion, but by fact of law of contract. National or international. Ancient or modern. You know, look at this, Dr. Nayo. You remember what we were talking about earlier? Right? A certain company, a certain organization or company, under the guise of misrepresenting you, actually stole $1,900 from your account. A company, we were talking earlier, stole
$88.83.
$88 and almost 2,000 notes.
Right.
Right. Now, I want to point this out to you. If even with fiat, if that physical fiat was in your pocketbook, would they have been able to do that? No, unless they physically came and robbed you.
Right.
And it's still fiat. However,
Right.
they were able to do it because it was what? Digital. If they can do 1988, even without you, you had to find it out.
Right.
And guess what? If you didn't go through hell and high water to complain, you would have been out of it.
Right.
What does that tell you? The capacity of the operations with a dishonorable governing body, which they already multiple times proven to be dishonorable. 1900 could also be 91.
Right.
And guess what? At the same time, while you file and other people file complaints, right? Everybody's is not answered, and everybody does not get remedy.
That's right.
Intelligence tells you. Now they're both forms of fiat. However, do you really recognize them being bankrupt while they're doing this census so hard? They're running hard on the census, and the people don't know that they're bankrupt and that all government offices and departments have been legally dissolved. Dissolved. What does legally dissolved mean?
It means it no longer is valid or it's no longer.
So on what basis of law are they taxing people? And this has been since 1933.
What's fraud?
Of course it is. So why do you think they want to get these people on digital transfers now?
It's easier for them to rob.
It's easier to rob you and to tax you that way than it was before, and before it was already a fraud. Now they are limitless.
What I heard they would even do in this instance is potentially have a limit on a time limit for you to spend.
They can limit, so they're forcing
If
you.
you haven't spent in a second, like now we say
It disappears.
It disappears.
Oh, so what does that tell you? No, they're telling you.
Yeah.
Now, hold on. So right now, whenever somebody tells the truth,
you also know every transaction that you now handle.
Exactly.
They know when you pay the boy to
every
cut your grass. Or
exactly.
Whatever happens is
not only that. If you tell any truths about the corruption, they push a button and all of your stuff disappears. The same way that the different CIA platforms, Twitter, Google, Facebook, etc., are demonetizing people who have already been thrown off their jobs, and they are working hard themselves, being creative, and with their intellectual operations are generating finance. What do? Push a button and demonetize them. Push a button and do what? Freeze their accounts. Isn't that called digital? Oh, how far do we need to go with this conversation? Substance for substance, y'all. Contract law. In contract law principles, there shall be no vaguity. That means legitimate contracts cannot be vague or misleading. 2, substance for substance. 3, a minor or minority, i.e., cannot make valid contract, etc. The parties in the contract must be of lawful and legal age, and competent and mentally stable, etc. And that's just a few points. But mainly, substance. Is substance digital? Is substance abstract?
No.
Digital is abstract. That's a violation of contract law. At what point do people not recognize when they're being introduced to another fraud on top of a fraud because the first fraud failed them? It failed you. It benefited them. And now that the people caught on, they're presenting to you digital so they can steal the rest of your stuff and still maintain power over your lives. As a matter of fact, you'll be more locked down now than you were before. Substance for substance, you all. Everybody keeps trying to avoid treaty law and constitution, aren't they? Aren't they? So how are these people who are not constitutional going to make laws that is authorized under constitutional vested authority? Duh. They don't even recognize that these people are openly admitting that they're not only traitors, that they're criminal. It's not an issue of whether it works or not. It's an issue that is clear criminality. Substance for substance, y'all. Self-government is the major method by which you dismiss them and do not consent to them being fofers or trustees over your estate. That's a fact. So to govern yourself, you must know yourself. That's for one. To govern over yourself lawfully, you must recognize the treaties and laws that existed before you were born by virtue of your foreparents, etc., your forefathers. And you better specifically name them, and you better be harmonic with your pedigree and bloodline, because you can't use those treaties and constitutions if you're not a party to them. Why do you think Noble Drew Ali said to these Moors, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality? When you analyze law of contracts and covenants on the planet, you'll recognize why he said it. But you also recognize those who were traitors against him don't teach civics. Even though it's an established fact that the Moorish Temple of Science was registered as a civic organization, and then you'll see people who claim to be authorities under the authority of Noble Drew Ali will keep telling you that he didn't teach civics, lying to your faces. Lying to your faces. And then you'll understand why many people aren't aware of this information we're sharing with you now when it should have been common knowledge. Common knowledge.
Roxy Day says, how is the Treaty of Peace and Friendship relevant in these times in the context of commerce?
Because it is commerce. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship is the longest running treaty operating on the land, etc. in modern times. That's a fact. So for someone to be operating in any venue or international, they're operating under rules of trade, international, and those trades and international commerce or international communications come under consular venues of treaties. That's a fact all over the world. That's the platform. That's the venue. Has there been a constitutional convention by which these treaties or constitution were dissolved? And if they were not, that's the law of the land. This is why Drew Ali said in the Divine Warning to the Nations, he said what? That Constitution 1774 has never changed. Why? Because there's never been a constitutional convention. They stand as a supreme law of the land. And even to change them, then you're going to have the descendants of those people, i.e., are the only ones who have the authority to dissolve it. They're in perpetuity until such time takes place. So now you got a lot of conscious Moors, and we're not going along with the BS, are we? A lot of people are upset now, aren't they? Why? Because we discovered that they've been operating in a state of misprision. See, as long as they had you under the Christian black codes, going around calling yourself crayons, you know, I know some light-skinned green people, and then some dark-skinned, orange-skinned black people, but then the white, purple people, don't matter what color you are, and then we have rights under the Constitution. You're not a party to it. Stop. Get over it. Stop playing. It's not in your interest to continue BSing.
There's a question or a comment.
And I'll share another one with you.
Okay.
Number 8, there are no lawful judicial courts operating under the jurisdiction of the United States Corporation doing business at North America. Lawful courts have not been in existence since 1789. Article 3 judges do not enforce statutes and codes. Executive administrators enforce statutes and codes. See FRC versus GE 281 U.S. 464, Keller versus PE 261 U.S. 428, 1 Statute 138-178 as a point of reference, and you'll find other cases in relationship, because that one case will lead you to another, and you'll recognize that there are no Article 3 judges. Now do you see why conscious Moors are enforcing the treaties via Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution for the United States, which leads back to the treaties, diversity of nationality? Consular court is the venue. And just because they're a fraud don't mean that we are. We're standing on the law while they're standing on fraud and under a color of law. That's why you see a lot of people all upset as soon as Moors say anything about consular venues, which is the established law. The established law. I.e., that's called treaty. And when someone denied consular venue, they're denying the treaty enforcements. But they know that most of these people are ignorant, so they make those statements, and they've been getting away with it because the people have not been taught civics.